The main reasons for developing the carnival in the early years in the 60s were like threefold. First of all, there was a playground in the garden of the organizer. Her name is Mrs. Lesley, and it was an adventure playground, and the kids from the neighborhood went there for the summer holidays and after school and all of that. So they thought they would have a little party for the kids going back to school the following week. That's one development. The second thing was that it was such a huge slum and one of the worst slums in London that Mrs. Laslett, the organizer, thought um, she used to hear the West Indian women talking about the carnivals and how much they miss their carnivals. So she thought that she would do that sort of thing, and that is how she got a steel band to come to perform with the drums around their necks, and that is one reason. Um, Another reason why it started. The other one was, of course, there was a huge amount of displeasure with the way that the police were treating the young blacks in the neighborhood. They were forever accused of stopping and searching and putting weeds in their pockets and planting them. And so the relationship with the police was awful. So those are the three reasons why the people thought it would be nice to have some jollifications at the end of the summer. I became involved in the Notting Hill Carnival in 1966, as I had been previously in 65, as a reveler or a participant. What inspired me to get involved in the carnival as an organizer was that there was um, a lack of leadership, and people were fed up with the same format, which is the Trinidad men with the drums around their necks walking through the community. And of course, the community was made up of large number of Jamaicans, Vincentians, French-speaking people from St. Lucia and Martinique, etc. So we had to cater for them as well. So my motivation, what inspired me, was of course I realized that it could be done in a different way. So the French-speaking people had their costumes that they would use back in St. Lucia and Martinique and Guadeloupe. And so did the Jamaicans, have no experience of carnival whatsoever, but they love the song systems and they love their reggae music. So it seemed to me that the carnival could be developed along those lines. The challenge was time, as there was only 7 weeks to go. And I went and consulted with the elders in the community, and they all agreed that we should have a decent go at it. And of course, the Trinidadians were past masters of the costume making business. And I gave the local sound systems a chance to play, put them beneath the flyover, the motorway that was just built, and sent out a call for mask makers and more steel bands. I was lucky to get, and of course, it was a huge success. Um, Over 50,000 people turned up. And of course, I also had to raise the money because there was no money whatsoever. And I wrote to the Caribbean firms and I wrote to the various embassies and got them all involved, got the police involved, let them know we weren't planning some protest or demonstration or whatever, that it was a fund loving type of thing. Got some trucks from the council, went to the radio stations, BBC radio stations, and advertised it in the short time that we had available. And of course, it was a tremendous success. That was in 1973. In 1973, when the police saw that 50,000, mainly black people, had turned up on the streets of Ladbroke Grove, they, I suppose, became concerned and perhaps saw potential for violence and crime and that sort of thing. Um, but I had the good sense, I think, to um, have a relationship with them, whereby, as we had to close off certain streets, etc., they were very reluctant to divert the buses at that time. They thought it was just a flash in the pan. They didn't know it was going to get bigger um, in the consequent years. The council took no part in it whatsoever, although I got six of their trucks, flatbed trucks, to transport the youths and the bands in 73. I believe they gave me the same amount in 74, but that was entirely due to the union people in the council in that division. Of course, there was no provision at that time in those years, 73, 74, 75, for public toilets when there's a great need for that. So the council really didn't want the carnival on their streets and wrote to me encouraging me to go to Chelsea football ground or to Wormwood Scrubs or go to a big open space. They didn't see that the carnival was meant for the streets, and that is where it flourished. It wouldn't be the same in a savannah type situation. So there was no problems um, in 73, 74, and 75. The police realized that there were some bad elements who were picking pockets and so on, and they made a to do about it. And of course, by that time, the newspapers were on the television, etc., the British television, were looking forward to the carnival because of the lovely costumes and the spectacle of it all. So that is that was the position in those years. I left in 1975, 76 actually, to join Island Records because that is where my career, if you like, was heading. So having left in 1976 to go to work for Island Records, um, I had left in a committee in place. There was money in the bank, and there was an organization, a committee made up of the musicians and local people to help guide the carnival. Having left the committee, other people saw the the carnival's potential and formed another committee. So it became two committees vying for power, and of course the police would exploit this. In 1976, having the two committees, the police exploited it and came um, kind of heavy-handed, loads more police, um, and that enraged the young people because they could see that the police were like seeking some confrontation. At that time, of course, the SOS laws were in operation, and there was a whole different way of relationships um, developing between the police and black people. So there was the huge riot that happened, and which began to give the carnival a bad name, and that is what the media focused on over the years. And there hasn't been any kind of riots or horrendous crime ratings or any such like things happening now. But there were difficult years when the police saw it as a time to confront the young people and the carnival organization. The council, on their part, saw that the streets were being used for selling Caribbean food, etc., and wanted a piece of the action. It's a conservative Tory council, and a Tory borough, and they introduced the fact that the monies for the stalls should be um, paid at the council offices, and that is the way it is today. And of course, the carnival committee, as it exists now, would receive what I would have considered a pittance from the vast stall sales that we initiated, that we created. So 47 years later, I have come out of retirement to create something called the Carnival Pioneers that puts the best bands and best artists in the Caribbean community on display, showcase them, and that happens 2 weeks before Carnival, and that is where I am at today. So thank you.